Good morning and welcome to Grandy and Associates Advantage webinar for the day. The title of today's program is Providing Great Customer Service in the Trenches. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started here. The program is being recorded so that if you at any point have to leave us after the webinar, we'll be emailing out a recording of the webinar so you can catch up, share it with friends and so forth. Also at the end of the presentation, Bill will be taking questions, so that if you have any, go ahead and type them in. Today's presenter is Bill Kennard, the owner and president of Grandy and Associates. He's been working with the trades industry with experience in HVAC sales, service management, sales management, and customer service. Bill has worked with both large and small companies and has a passion for teaching contractors to better understand their business and help their employees become superior performers. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Bill.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Welcome. It's great to have you here in the program today. This program is one that, for me, is one of the most enjoyable programs that I have to teach. This is a program that I originally created a number of years ago in its original form. And at that point in my career, I was working for a wholesale distributor, and I was in the technical service side. And one of the things that one of my roles was to resolve customer complaints, deal with any issues that came up with the products that we sold and the contractors that put them in, and so I was that factory liaison, if you will. And remember going out to this particular program, to this particular consumer's house, and spent literally 2 hours getting reamed out by this very unhappy customer about the product that we sold as a supplier, and the customer's yelling at me, and I can't believe that you guys sell this stuff, and if how can you produce this and actually charge money for it? It would have been on the curb weeks ago if you guys had only, if it hadn't been for this dealer who's been taking care of me. And I'm in the car driving back to my office after resolving the issue, and it dawned on me the problem that we had nothing to do with the products that we as a company sold. Nothing. The entire issue was that it was installed incorrectly, and once we fixed that that error on installation, it was working perfect. It's just that this contractor had done such a phenomenal job at taking care of the customer, and that even though technically he wasn't so sharp, from a customer service side, he was creating raving fans every day of the week. And so I started thinking about that a little bit, and and our customer base was no different than any other contractor base across the country. We had some really good, hard-working guys out there, and so I started just jotting down every time I ran into that situation where I ran into a problem which really wasn't a product-related problem. It was more of a install or a customer service type issue. And I just jot a note on it, kind of detail it out, and I throw it in a file. After about 6 months, that file was about 1.5 inches thick, and I'm going, wow, we apparently have an issue with customer service and how we're dealing with customers, because I ended up spending so much of my time trying to resolve issues that had nothing to do with the products that we sold. And so I originally created this program in its original form. It's changed several times since then, but it's in its original form, hoping that maybe I could get 25, 30 people to come to attend one class, and maybe I could have just a little bit of an impact at those couple of dealerships. Blew me away that after 6 months I had well over 1,500 man-hours of training in that one class alone. I was doing it 2 and 3 nights a week in different areas across our territory that we handle. This was such a big issue. And this continues to be one of the most popular topics that we deal with today. I will hire somebody for attitude and communication skills any day of the week. I can teach wrench turning. I can't teach a positive attitude. And so that's one of those things that we talk about in providing great customer service in the trenches. So let's dig in. As we go through the program itself, if you've got any questions, feel free to type them into the chat bar. We'll stop and address those as we go through our time together. So it's helpful if we're going to talk about this to many times stop and take a moment and just think, how do we get here? Because what we find is that most contractors got their start the exact same way. I don't care what trade you're working in, right? Whether it's plumbing or heating or electrical or landscape or pool and spa, lock and security or irrigation, it doesn't matter. The start, the way that the most of the company owners got their start, is the exact same way. And that's that most company owners started out working as an installer or technician for somebody else. And they're working on a job one day, they were in an attic or a crawl space or digging in the trench or slopping through the mud or whatever the case was, and all of a sudden the light bulb goes on and going, wait a minute, I'm getting paid 10, 15, 20 bucks an hour, whatever the number is irrelevant, right? Because I know we're charging the customer some ridiculous rate like 75, 80, 90 or 100 bucks an hour or more. Man, I'm the one here doing all the work and the boss is getting filthy, stinking rich. I know he's getting rich because, by golly, he's driving that brand new shiny red pickup truck, the same model that I want to have, but by golly, I can't get it. And it doesn't look like I'll ever be able to get it. And at the same time, he just took this really cool vacation. Man, I took a vacation and I mowed my lawn. So how fun is that? And so that thought starts rolling around through the old noggin, and pretty soon we're going, wait a minute, I could probably do this a whole lot better myself. And so we're going to split and go off into business for ourselves. And as we do that, now we got to start getting rolling, right? And we find out that, hey, you know what? Maybe that whole difference between what the boss is paying me and what we were charging the customer wasn't all 100% profit. I mean, so many times I'll be on a job and I'll be working with whether it's the installers or the technicians, and they're going, man, we sold this job for $16,000. Boss is making $16,000 on this job. Well, of course not. It's not $16,000. We still got to pay all the equipment. We got to pay for the materials, pay all the labor, pay all the overhead expenses. And so that starts to create a little bit of an issue. And so, but what happens is many companies out there, most easily 95% or more companies out there, are run by people who are really good at their trade, really good at their craft. They just haven't had training on this side of the business. So we would just want to put a little bit of a focus on this part of the puzzle. If you think about it, we talk about providing great customer service. What is customer service? Think about it for a minute. Try and define customer service. How would you define that? How do you put a definition on customer service? We'll talk about that as we go through our time here this morning, but if you think about it, customer service is kind of a bare minimum. Right? It's really not the objective. It's not what we're shooting for. It's just that bare minimum. It's simply taking care of the customer's needs. That's it. Right? That's really not what we need to be shooting for. So we can look a little bit bigger, right? And say, okay, well, what about customer satisfaction? That's a little bit broader, right? Customer satisfaction is making the customer feel good about their interaction with us, whereas customer service is just purely taking care of their needs. But in all reality today, that's not good enough. We have to go to the next level, right? It's not customer service. It's not customer satisfaction. It's really creating the customer experience. Customer service is that bare minimum. Customer satisfaction is making them feel good about that interaction with us. But the customer experience, that's what will make them come back to us again and again next time. Way back in 1953, Walt Disney said, we're going to do what we do so well that the people who see it will want to see it again and again, and next time they'll bring their friends. You think he got it? I think he probably did. Most any group that I'm in front of, I'll put this quote up there and I'll ask them, so how many of you have ever been to a Disney property in your lifetime? Easily 2/3 to 3/4 of every single group I'm in front of will raise their hand. And many of them have been there multiple times. I think he figured it out. My question to you is, do you do what you do so well that the people who experience it want to experience it again, and they're willing to tell other people about it? That's what we need to be shooting for. That's not going to happen based off of products. It's not going to happen based off of the stuff we're installing. It's based on how we install those products, how we deal with the people, how we communicate with them. You have a brand. The question is it a good brand or is it a bad brand? But you have a brand. And this kind of goes into part of that, excuse me. So let's talk about this a little bit deeper. There's a lot of things. I mean, customer service, we've been dealing with that forever. There's a lot of reasons why, it's hard to provide sometimes good customer service because there's a lot of things that get in the way of that. If we think about it, labor today is a lot more expensive than it used to be. Labor today, again, far more expensive. You think about insurances and unemployment costs and workman's comp and all those things that you have to start paying just to hire an employee. I mean, so many new company owners, they go out there and they hire their first person. And now every time they open the mail, it's another payroll tax they didn't even know existed. It's amazing how much it costs to hire an employee. At the same time, look at the tools that it takes to do the job today. Right? It used to be years ago, I'm in the HVAC trade, it was my background. If I had my Simpson meter, man, I could fix almost anything. Right? I was good. I remember the very first digital multimeter I bought, right, $483.37. I can remember writing out that check today going, are you kidding me, this much money for a meter? Right? Yet that's an inexpensive tool today with some of the stuff. In meters today are throwaways. Right now it's a lot more expensive stuff that we're dealing with and you have to use. Think about what it costs to put a truck on the road today. Our job would be easy in the trades if we just told our customer, tell you what, you bring your pool to us and we'll fix it, or you bring your HVAC system to us and we'll fix it here at the shop. It would be a lot easier. That's unfortunately not the way it works. Right? They expect us to be, have this rolling warehouse and be bringing that out to the customer's home, right, or their place of business, and have it stocked with everything we need to fix their particular system and get it rolling again, and do this all for almost nothing. That gets in the way of providing great customer service. There's really fewer people today to do the same jobs that we have. Even if within the company you're working for, if you've got the same number of people there today that you did 10 years ago, you've got fewer people. More specifically, you've got fewer hours. Right? Think about the stuff you're working on today, the paperwork that has to be done, how it needs to all be done. It takes more man hours to do the same work we did years ago. And so that creates problems for us, and it gets in the way of providing customer service. There's voicemail and pagers and cell phones and all that other stuff, that communication devices that we have. Think about it. Some of you guys, if you're a little bit older, you remember that time. Remember, there was a point when we could drive from one service call to the next and nobody in the world could find us. It was kind of a nice little time, wasn't it? It was quiet. Right? Didn't have to worry about, we could kind of mentally reset from the last call or get ready for this next call. We had some time to mentally prepare for it. Today, that's not there anymore. The phone's ringing all the while we're on that last service call. And so when we get in the truck, we're right back at it again. And so again, it gets in the way. It ties us up mentally, and so we're not prepared to talk to the customers. How many times have you gone into a restaurant or a store, right, and the server is just so preoccupied with something else that's going? That's exactly what's happening to us. It's so easy to be sidetracked and focused, and so we need to be focusing on the customer. You think about the technical advances and the products that you have today. I mean, for crying out loud, think of, again, I'm HVAC, but I don't care what the trade is, they're all the same from this aspect. When I started out in this thing 30-some years ago, I'd go out and work on a furnace. It was pretty easy. You basically had 4 components. You had a gas valve, you had a blower motor, you had a thermocouple, and you had fan and limit switch. I could guess at the problem. I had a 25% chance of being right. And what did you do if you guessed wrong? You guessed again. Your odds just went up to 50%. And so it starts to, again, today, I mean, the stuff is so much more complex with the circuit boards and the electronics, and, all that stuff starts to create more pressure on us as individuals to know more. And so as a result, it creates more problems, and it gets in the way of providing phenomenal customer service. On the part of our customer, their expectations are rising. They demand more to be satisfied. I mean, I always call this, the Burger King generation, right? I want it now. I want it my way. Right? So that starts to get a little bit problematic, and it gets in the way. There's less product differentiation today. I mean, think about it. I don't care what your trade is. There's only so many different ways to do what your trade does. Yet, there's far more name brands out in the market. Right? If there's more name brands, there's more competition, which means there's more, many times, pressure to lower the price a little bit. And then you put on top of that government restrictions that are in place. Just about every trade out there has government restrictions that, when they went into place, dramatically impacted that particular trade. It creates a problem. It gets in the way of providing phenomenal customer service. And so all that stuff starts to just cloud our attention and clamor for it, and it gets in the way that we provide customer service. And so when we look at it, the bottom line is simply this. If we don't change and our competitors do, we get left behind. If we don't improve, even if 5 years ago we were the company that everybody in the market started to chase for, and we're doing things that same way today, odds are we're eating somebody else's dust. Right? If we don't improve and our competitors do, they win, we lose. It's that simple. So we have to look at that part of the puzzle and what we're doing and how we're doing it, right? And again, that interaction with the customer. Because think about it for a minute. We're in our customers' homes every day. To us, it's not that big a deal, right? We've got some of those homes that they're extremely neat, and we got to be careful that we don't get a spot on the rug, and we got some of those things, right? And we're dealing with that part of it, right? And then we got those other homes that we go into, and wow, that was a nightmare. It was a disaster. The house is a mess, right? But we just get numbed to it. But think about it. To our customer, how many times are we in their home over the course of a year? Once? Maybe twice? This is a big deal to them. This is their home. This is their private quarters, right? How many times do you walk into a customer's home and they apologize for the appearance of the house? It's a big deal. They're letting you into their inner sanctum. We have to respect that and pay attention to that, because to them, this is really a big deal. And so we have to be focusing on that part of the puzzle. Even though we got into this because, quite honestly, we like working with our hands and fixing things, and we like the challenge of fixing things, right? But to the customer, this is totally different. And so we have to be aware of that. On top of all of this stuff, the customer is our bread and butter. Without them, we have no reason to be here. All too often, I'll be working in customers' homes, in contractors' offices, and the phones will be ringing, and somewhere along the line, I'll hear somebody go, "Man, I just wish these phones would stop ringing." I'm thinking, really? Do you really want them to stop ringing? Because if they stop ringing, we don't need you. Right? So that's one of those things, again, we have to pay so much attention to this. Think about it for a minute. Why do customers leave? Why do you think customers stop doing business? Even those customers that were happy with you at one point in time, why do they stop doing business with you? Many times the answers that I'll get with that question is, well, it's because of price, or it's because of, we didn't take care of them, or they know somebody else in the market, or whatever, a lot of different reasons, right? Well, statistically, here's the way it shakes out. 4% of customers will leave because they felt the price was unfair. 4%, that's it. This is not your customer. In fact, if this truly is your customer, you're limiting yourself to 4% of the total population out there. So many times we chase that bottom line, I got to get this job, and so we got to lower the price. Well, quite frankly, when you start lowering the price to get that low-end market, what you're doing is you are taking yourself out of possible contention as a provider for any high-end customers. And don't kid yourself, every market has a whole bunch of high-end customers. And so if it's purely, you can't afford for this to be your customer. Here's the thing. If you go out there and you're chasing this customer and you lower your price just to make sure that you're competitive to get it, what's the very next thing that'll happen? Sure, somebody else out there will lower their price. Right? And you're stuck in this downward spiral that you can't possibly get out of. Right? You can't win in this market. You now have the guy who understands business the least in your market dictating your pricing. You cannot possibly win. Only 4% truly leave because of price. 9% become unserviceable. Think about it. Some of your customers, well, they die. You can't do a whole lot about that, right? But you have a chunk of customers that are moving. And so this would beg the question then, who is your customer? Is it the homeowner or is it the home? Is it the person or is it the address? What do you think? I would say it's both. So this would mean you should have 2 letters that anytime you hear of one of your customers that are moving, we should immediately send out a letter to them. And the first one would go to the homeowner. If they moved into a new home within your market, then what I would recommend is that we send them a letter, and it could be something as simple as this. Dear Mr. or Mrs. Smith, congratulations on the purchase of your new home. At ABC Heating and Cooling, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for allowing us to provide service in your previous home. We'd love to have the chance to provide you the same great level of comfort and service in your current home or in your new home. Tell a little bit about what you do, sign off on it, and send it off to them. That would be the first one. The second one would be a letter to the home, the address, the new customer at the old address, if you will. And this one would be something like, Dear Mr. or Mrs. Smith, congratulations on the purchase of your new home. At ABC Heating and Cooling, we installed your system 5 years ago. We've been servicing it ever since. Nobody in town knows your system as well as we do. We'd love to have the opportunity to provide you the same level of comfort and service in your home that we did for the previous owner. Tell a little bit about what you do, sign off on it, and send it out to the customer. That will do a huge amount. That's really important. And the reason it's important is because Home Depot has spent a lot of money studying this. Think about it. If you've moved within the last 10 years, after you move to a new home, whether it's new or new to you, doesn't matter, odds are you started getting a whole bunch of mailers from home improvement stores. Sears, Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, any of those home improvement stores in your particular market. Why? Again, Home Depot has spent a lot of money studying this thing. They know that anytime somebody moves into a new home, whether it's new or new to them, they will spend more money in the first 15 months on home improvement than they will in the next 18 years. It's significant. And the stuff that you provide falls into that same category. They want to make this home theirs. And so you need to get in touch with that customer within the first year to get a part of their spending dollar. So 9% of them. 12% are disappointed. We didn't take care of them. We didn't deliver, right? Maybe we overpromised and underdelivered, right? Be careful about that one. We didn't take care of them in some way, shape, or form. What are you doing? You have a brand. You can choose to take care of the customer. Are you doing what you do so well the customer wants to experience it again and again? So 12% will leave because of that reason. 16% will leave because they accepted a competitive offer. This is not the same thing as the price was unfair. It's totally different, right? Price was unfair flat out means there are some truly low-end customers. Customers who accepted a competitive offer simply means that there wasn't enough value in the price for the job that you got. A friend of mine built a house a couple of years ago, and as he went through it, he wanted it to be, he was very intent on this home being comfortable. And he got 2 different prices for his HVAC and plumbing. First one on the HVAC was $8,000. The second one was $18,000. When I talked to him afterwards, he had gone with the second contractor. He was willing to spend $10,000 more because in his particular case, that job, the $18,000 job, had much more value to it than the $8,000 job. It wasn't about price. It's totally about value. Are you providing the value? If you're going into a home and you're quoting a customer to provide nothing but warm air, cool air, or water, right? Hot water, cold water, or got the pool filled, whatever the case, whatever your trade is, if you're going in there looking for that basic, then odds are all you have left to sell. You have to sell the other stuff, right? Think about it. I can go into your market and I can grab my smartphone and I can do a quick Google search and I can find a dozen more just like you. Why should I call you? What makes you different? Right? What's that value? And it's got a lot more to do than just the products that you sell. It's who you are and what you do and how we communicate and what we're going to deliver to the customer. It's all of that. That's part of that brand that we talked about earlier. All right, so build the value. When the value exceeds the price, the customer will buy. 55% of customers will leave because of an attitude towards the customer. Either the company didn't care, or at least gave the impression they didn't care, or there was no contact. 63% of consumers who said that they absolutely loved the service they got from their contractor in the past didn't call them again the next time for one very important reason. They couldn't remember who they were. If you ran a service call for somebody 2 years ago and you haven't done anything with them since, are they still your customer? In many cases, you might think they are, but they're really not. Are we keeping in touch with our customers? Are we letting them know that we care? Excuse me. One of the other things that that comes up here is a bad attitude towards the customer. When we look at that one, and you can go through an installation with a customer, and as you're dealing with the install, we can go in and check in with the customer before the install, during the install, after the install, do the happy call the next day, and as we do that, a customer can say they're thrilled all the way through, and then the next day they call into the office to find out, ask a question about their invoice, and whoever answers the phone treats them rudely. Your company is rude at that point. Every person in the company has to get this piece of the puzzle, right? It's how we treat that attitude towards the customer is so important. Now, if you look at this list, 4% felt the price was unfair. It's not my customer, right? Can't worry about them. 9% become unserviceable. Other than the part that are moving and staying within our geographical area, I can't do much about them. But look at the rest of it, right? 55% of an attitude towards a customer. 16% accepted a competitive offer. There wasn't enough value. 12% were disappointed in the way that we handled it. That's 80-some% of the customers will leave because of things that we have control over. We have to do whatever we can to keep these customers. If you look at it, in the study that was done originally, we've been teaching for a long time. Customers really want three things. They want quality work. They want you to do what you said you were going to do, and they want you to do it when you said you were going to do it. Then this survey comes out, right, and we see that the number one item that customers want at the bottom of the list be honest, be truthful, be ethical. All right, do what you said you were going to do. Good customer service, that's kind of generic, if you will. Accountability, deliver on the promise, do what you said you were going to do. The next one, quality products and services. If you provide those couple of items, price is usually further down the list, and it's not even an issue. Price is usually not the determining factor. Many times we make it the determining factor, not the customer. And think about it. How do you do things? The bar isn't necessarily real high. This is a website for a company out on the East Coast, right? We show up. The trades industry in general, and I'm not saying anything about this particular company, but the trades industry in general doesn't always have a stellar reputation. So suddenly, if you start treating the customer like we truly care about them, it sets us apart, right? So start looking at that part of that part of the puzzle. How are we truly treating our customers? How do we compete, right? What do the customers really want? And how do we differentiate ourselves? Think about that. I mean, with all this stuff that we're talking about, we find ourselves, is it even possible to compete today? And the answer, without a question of a doubt, is yes. Without a doubt. Sam Walton said, look, there's only one boss, and that's the customer. And they can fire anybody in the company, from the chairman on down, simply by spending their money someplace else. We need to have our customers spending the money with us. We need to have them coming back to us over and over and over. And we're going to do that not simply by providing the basic customer service. We're going to do that by giving them that phenomenal customer experience and make them want to come back to us each and every time. So what are customers really buying? If you think about it, customers want to feel that those people that were taking their money deserve it. Right? You're going to go out there, you're going to provide product or services, and they want to make sure that, hey, these guys really do deserve my money. They want the services that you can provide to them, the satisfaction that you can provide. And all that stuff is not that hard to do. We just need to pay attention on this people part of the puzzle that sometimes we tend to forget. It's the employees within the company that you work for that make the difference. It absolutely starts with you. The people are the single greatest asset that any company has. And it might sound like a cliche, but you know what? It's absolutely important. I don't care what trade you're in. I don't care what market you're in. This is still a relationship business. People buy from people they know, they like, they trust. And some markets, I hear, yeah, not in my market. People here are just all out for themselves, right? That's because they don't trust anybody. Start developing, right? If we handle the customer differently, we start developing that relationship with them, then many times that becomes unbreakable. So think about that for a minute. So really, what is customer service? What's great customer service? I started out the program talking about this. How do we define that? When we think about it, it comes down to 6 areas. These 6 areas are simply, number 1, the job craft. Can you do the job that we're paying you to do? If you can't do the job, then we already have some other issues. Right? Because I don't care how much you take care of the customer, right? Ultimately, we still have to be able to resolve the issues that they're calling us to resolve. I said, and then the question comes up, whose responsibility is it to get me the training that I need to do my job? And the answer is very simple. It's mine. Right? It's not my boss's. It's not, the company I work for. It's mine. Now, if I work for a company that will support me in that effort, awesome, right? But it's mine, right? I ultimately have to make myself worth it to do that job. Second one, interpersonal skills. Communicating with, relating to, being sensitive to the customer's needs. Now, again, I hear all the time, well, wait a minute. Bill, I got into this trade because I like working with my hands and fixing things. This is awfully touchy-feely, and I don't know that I want to get into it. You know what? It doesn't matter if you want to or not. This part of the puzzle is critical. I hired somebody at one point in time in one of the roles I was in, and this guy technically was awesome. He could handle any challenge I put in front of him. But I found out that every single time he opened his mouth, he ended up ticking somebody off. I couldn't send him out to my customers, even though he was technically very good. He couldn't talk to the customer. Right? So that was a problem. And so we need to be looking at that part of the puzzle. And I'd rather hire somebody for attitude and communication skills and teach them the wrench turning. I can teach that. I can't teach the rest of it. All right, so do they have the ability to communicate with other people? The third item, a positive attitude. Do you like to do what you do? Do you have a desire to do the job that you're doing? And I can see this in people all the time. You see it around the company you work with. You get some people who are coming in going, oh, man, it's Monday. I can't believe it's Monday already. I don't want to be here. I had way too much fun this weekend. I don't really want to be here this weekend, but man, I got to make the house payment, right? Mama needs a new pair of shoes, so let's go. What do you got today, boss? Right? Versus, oh, come on, man. Thank God it's Monday. I've been waiting for it today. Let's bring it on. What do we got? Right? It's a totally different mindset, and our customers can see this, and the people we work with can see it. If you don't like doing what you do, say, you know what? We spend way too much time at work not to enjoy doing what we do. And if you don't enjoy it, you're not doing anybody any favors by staying here. Go and find something else. Right? Because they can see it that you don't want to be here, and it shows up in how we interact with our customers and how we do the job and the level of vigor that we put toward our job. It makes a difference. Do what you love to do. Right? From there, the next piece of the puzzle is whoops, got a little snafu here. There we go. Procedures and smoothing, ensuring a smooth, predictable sequence of events. Right? Do you have a smooth, predictable sequence of events? Right? Your customers have got a right to expect that. Let's be a little bit more intentional about that. Right? So what I mean by that is let's say our customers, and as we go through and the normal process, right? Maybe a typical job would be a customer calls with a problem. We go out there, we fix the problem. After we fix it, we send the customer an invoice. They pay it. The world is happy. Everything is good, right? Let's change that up just a little tiny bit, right? They call us with a problem. We go out there, we fix it, right? But we don't send them an invoice for 6 months. Odds are, for 6 months, they're thinking, man, I like this company. They came out, they solved my problem, and it was free. They didn't charge me for it. In fact, I'll recommend them all day long. They'll come out and take care of little problems like that for free. I love these guys, right? And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, the invoice shows up, and they're going, oh, man, these bums. Are you kidding me? 6 months later? How unorganized are them? That's sloppy paperwork. If they handle it this, just a simple service call this way, how do they handle everything else? And now what am I going to do? I had the money 6 months ago, but I went out and bought a new toy since then. I don't have it anymore. So, and again, they've got a right to expect a smooth, predictable sequence of events. That's part of that great customer service. It's part of that communication piece. The fifth item, communication and teamwork. You are not a company amongst yourselves. These are the actions that enable two people to do more work together than two people individually. And some of you guys see this with your crews on jobs where you'll have two guys that work together so well, it's like watching a symphony in action. Right? One guy is just anticipating what the next one is doing, and they're bobbing and weaving and working together. And it's great. And then you get the next crew that's working together, and man, they have no clue what each other is doing. Right? And they're running into each other, and they're hitting each other with product, and getting in the way, and they're arguing with each other. And man, can your customers see that? Without a doubt. Right? And go one step farther. Even if it's on a new construction and the customer's not there, what about the other subcontractors? They can absolutely see it. And how many times have you seen another contractor and you're just shaking your head going, wow, what a bunch of clowns? Right? Your customers absolutely see that. How well do you guys work together within your company? And the sixth item is continuous learning, amending the rules and procedures, consistently improving the final product. This reminds me of the story of the newlywed who wanted to bake a ham for her new husband. And she goes to her mother and says, Mom, man, I love the ham that you always made. I want to make my husband this new ham, just like the one that you've always made. How do you do it? Right, and the mom's telling her, okay, we go out and we get this particular brand of ham. I usually get about this size, and I'll take it out of the packaging, and I cut the end off the ham, and we season it a certain way and put it in the pan, and we cook it in the oven at this temperature for a certain time frame. She goes, makes total sense, Mom, I got it. She said, I understand it all except the one piece. She said, you cut the end off the ham. Why do you do that? And the mother says, well, that's the way that your grandma taught me. That's the way I always do it that way. Go call your grandma and ask her. So the newlywed calls her grandmother and says, Grandma, I'm trying to make this ham for my new husband, and Mom's telling me how to do it, and it all makes perfect sense for me, except the one part where you said, you're telling her that we got to cut the end off the ham. Why do we do that? And the grandmother goes, well, silly, that's the only way it fits in my pan. Are we doing things for reasons that make sense today? If they don't make any sense, change it. The thing I never want to hear in any company is because that's the way we've always done it. I don't care how you've done it. Does it make sense today? With everything that you do, you should be able to answer one of two questions. How does this help my customer, or how does this help this company? And if you can't answer one of those two questions, then you need to take a serious look at why you're even doing it at all. Change what you're doing. Make yourself more responsive. Those 6 items make up phenomenal customer service. If you master those 6 items, it almost doesn't matter what product you sell, because all of a sudden you become the brand all by yourself. They're buying you. So let me ask you this question. I've got an incredible 2-week vacation package, and it is an awesome price. Are you interested? Do you want it? Want to take me up on it? Don't ask me any questions. It's a yes or no question. Do you want it? Are you in? And here's one of those things. This 2-week vacation package could be 2 weeks of sun and peace and relaxation on the beach. It could also be a 2-week cruise through the Inside Passage up in Alaska. Yeah, I don't know about you. I'm told that this is a beautiful trip. My father-in-law went on this trip and loved it. It's a trip that I will never go on, right? I'm not a cold weather boy. For me, the idea of going on a cruise ship where I need to wear long sleeves doesn't go together, right? So me, it's the beach thing. For other people, they don't want that. They'd rather take the Alaskan cruise, right? So how do you know the difference? How do you gotta find out what they're, because what you think is a great trip is different than what I think is a great trip. Right? So how do you find out? Right? We have to find out. How do you find out what their perception is? You have to ask the question. You have to ask them. So what are they really buying? Think about it. If you're going to go to a restaurant, what are you buying? Some people are buying quality food. Other people are buying fast service. Some people are buying the Toyland. Right? I just want a 5-minute mental break. That's all I want to work on. I'll lock the kids in that room and I don't have to watch them. Right? Different people are buying different things. If I buy a set of airline tickets, some people are buying just a way to get from point A to point B quickly. Other people are buying a safety record. Other people are buying leg room. Other people are buying, it's different for everybody. So what is it that you would be buying? Right? A security system. I like to use that example because, with a security system, think about physically what are you getting? Physically, what are you getting? A little keypad with a couple of wires, and that's it. Right? I mean, some security systems, for crying out loud, consist of nothing more than a sign that says this property is protected by a security system. But what are people buying? They're buying peace of mind. They're buying a feeling of safety. Right? They're buying something totally different than what you're necessarily physically providing. We have to figure that out, right? What are our customers buying? One of my favorite commercials that I see that makes this point better than any other is a couple sitting on their back patio, just enjoying, relaxing, right? And they're looking out over the back lawn, right? And that's the, really the whole scene. And it's a commercial for lawn care. Right? Because let somebody else take care of the lawn. You can just enjoy the peaceful beauty of your backyard when it's completed. Right? And so again, what are the customers buying? Right? Every customer is buying something different. We have to tap into that. Customers are really buying a product or service that does what they want it to, not what you think it needs, what they need, what they want it to do. They want to be handled efficiently. They want honest and fair treatment. They want attention to their individual needs. Right? They want to be handled with warmth and with courtesy. Are you doing this with every one of your customers? They want to feel good about not only their contract with you, but their contact with you. Right? And along with that, they want to feel like they matter. They want to feel like they are your most important customer. Because to them, they are. And so that brings us to the moments of truth. A moment of truth is really any contact between you and your customer during which the customer is going to decide if your company is truly customer focused or not. Are you customer focused? And you can say you are, but how does that carry out in your actions and the way that you treat your customers? Think back to the last week, 2 weeks. Can you think of times when the customer had the opportunity to decide whether your company was truly customer focused or not? My guess is you can. Those instances need to be talked about as a team. How do we, if there's problem areas, right, where the customer may have decided that maybe we're not really customer focused, right, that we're more self-focused or profit focused or revenue focused, then at that point, we need to be talking about that because we're delivering the wrong message, right? Think about your moments of truth. You have to take responsibility for the customer satisfaction. Right? We need to be chasing down those areas. And then along with that, part of that is your appearance. How do you look? Right? And your appearance goes, this is every aspect of your company. Right? One of the things I ask is, are you GOLD? GOLD is an acronym for Grand Opening Look Daily. I always find this fascinating. If we're going to have a customer appreciation day or a grand opening, right, what do? We go through the entire office, the entire shop, and we spiff and clean everything up. Make everything look nice. That pile of warranty parts in the corner that's been collecting dust that we haven't gotten to, well, we'll take care of that and get rid of it, right? We buy everybody brand new shirts, and they all look the same, and they all look good, right? And then also we go through that entire day, we get to the end of it and go, phew, we can finally go back to normal. My question is this, is what makes that Customer Appreciation Day any different than, say, Tuesday? Nothing. We should be on that look, that appearance, our best behavior every single day that our customers could come in contact with us. That's part of our brand. In fact, I'd say it's more important on those days than it is on the Customer Appreciation Day. Customers expect you to be at your best on that day, they would like you to see at your best every day. Right? But it goes well beyond just our appearance, you know, in terms of our building and our showroom and what things look like there. I mean, think about it. You know, what do your trucks look like? I was driving down the highway in Nashville one day. I saw this guy driving down the road next to me. I told my wife, you got to take a picture of that. I mean, does this guy instill confidence in you? Not really. Right? What do your vehicles look like? What does it look like inside of your trucks? Right? And it's not, you know, because think, is it neat? Is it orderly? How often do your customers actually walk out to the truck with you? Fairly often. Right? And if it doesn't look neat, you know, so again, is it orderly, or does it look like you rolled the truck over 3 times on the way to your customer's home? If it doesn't look neat, then chances are your customers are going, wow, if that's the way he takes care of his stuff, how's he going to handle my stuff? So that becomes a problem, right? Do you have, you know, even the cab of the truck, is it neat, or is it, you know, I always chuckle when I walk up, you know, to a supply house and I look at some contractors' trucks there, and the dashboards are just loaded with paper. Again, it's a mess. It conveys a message about you and about your company. So we have to be looking at that. And then you as an individual, what does your appearance look like? What are your customer appearance? What level of comfort does it instill in your customers? Would you let you in the house with your 16-year-old teenage daughter alone? Right? Sometimes your appearance will say more about you than anything else. And what's saying about you may or may not be true. I mean, who would you want working in your home, right? Do you want this guy working in your home, or do you want this guy? Now, quite honestly, the guy on the left here may be the one that you actually want. He might be the one who can fix anything, right? The guy on the right might not even have a clue. But the way that you look conveys a message. You know, when we look at it, customers see uniformed employees as far more trustworthy. Customers will believe that people who are in uniforms are more capable and more competent. Not saying they are, but they're perceived as far more capable and competent. And all things being equal, customers prefer to buy from companies whose employees are in uniforms. Right? Your people need to be in uniforms. And then at the same time, you need to decide, amongst your team, how do we wear the uniforms? Do we wear hats? Don't wear hats? Do we wear long sleeves, short sleeves, shirts tucked in, not tucked in? I don't care what the answer is, but you need to decide that, because that's part of your company's brand. And if you don't care if anybody in the company wears hats, then quite honestly, you can't argue when I show up with a hat with the logo on it that you don't like, because you don't care if we wear hats, right? You know, it needs to be defined for the company. And then think about this last piece of the puzzle. What's some of the terminology that you use? What are the words that we use? Communication was one of those areas of customer service that we talked about. This area is often so overlooked by technicians, but it's just as important as actually repairing the system correctly. We can actually repair the system and still have an unhappy customer because of the way that we communicated with them, the way that we shared that message of what we did. Right? And many times technicians, again, if we talk to the customer, sometimes we're going, you know what, I went through a lot of schooling to get to this point, right? I mean, how many times have you talked to a professional, a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, and you're going, well, can't you just talk to me in English? Our customers feel the exact same way. Sometimes they think we don't talk to them in English. Your ability to talk non-technical is critical to great customer relations. Think about some of the words that we're using for a little bit. I'll just use a couple of HVAC examples, right? A contactor. Does a customer really know what a contactor is? Probably not. It's a switch. It's an electrical component. We call it a contactor, right? That could be one of the ways that we talk about it. SEER, on the air conditioning side, we talk about SEER all the time, right? But really, do the customers know what it is? Well, maybe a better way to describe that would be the efficiency. It's kind of like miles per gallon in your car, right? The lower the SEER rating, the faster that little wheel on the electrical meter is going to spin, the more electricity it's going to use. Something like a reversing valve, again, in a heat pump, right? Again, they don't have a clue what that is, right? It's a switchover valve or a changeover valve. Right? A transformer, we use that in a lot of different trades, right? The customer doesn't know what that is. Right? That might be one where it's a power supply, right? Or an electrical component, right? We can use that neutral term. It's an electrical component, we call it a transformer. Compressor. And worse yet, two-stage compressor or inverter-driven compressor. Do they know what that is? No. It's the heart of the system. It's the pump. It's the engine, right? Explain it in terms and words that they totally get, that they understand. Because many customers won't ask you. And here's the thing. If we use terms that they don't understand, even though we talk them every single day, if the customer doesn't understand them, then it doesn't matter. There's no value in it. And if there's no value, then all you have left to sell is price. We have to talk the customer's language, right? CFM, right? It's airflow. It's about the amount of air in a basketball. Capacitor, right? It's the battery for the motor. It's what's going to get that motor turning, right? And so use the words, the terms that make sense for the customer. Think about that. Talk about this within your company. What are those words or terms that you use that you think the customer knows? Right? And the reason I use HVAC examples is that all trades do this. HVAC tends to be the greatest offender. So regardless of what your trade is, make sure you're using terms that your customers fully get, that they understand, and they know where you're at. And then I want you to consider this, this one last point. Body language. What is your body language conveying to your customer? Your body language is your physical talk, right? It's what your body is saying, your face, your eyes, your tone of voice, right? Your posture, your gestures, your proximity to the customer. What is that saying to the customer? 70% of all communication is visual. It's not audible. It's not what you're saying. It's how you say it, right? Those of you who are parents, you probably have said that to your kids once or twice, right? It's not what you said. It's how you said it, right? That piece of the puzzle is so critical. That conveys more to the customer than anything else, right? So positive body language, right? A smile, open posture, arms at your side, right? An interested expression. Your face agrees with what you're saying. Moderate eye contact, very sufficient voice volume, right? Your hands, your arms, your face agree with what you're saying. Versus negative body language being things like a wobbly or a hard voice, right? Very slow or very fast-paced speech. Right, we talk about the voice and the volume and the speed very low. Can you imagine if when Paul introduced me on this webinar, I started saying, "Oh, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started on this this webinar for providing great customer service in the trenches, and let's go ahead and we're going to have a lot of fun here today. Let's get going, yoo-hoo." Right? Of course, man, you'd all been sleeping a long time ago. Right, so again, what is your body language? The way that you talk is part of your body language. A worried or extreme expression, right? Evasive or constant eye contact. If you won't look somebody in the eye, what does that tell them? Right? Many times, what they interpret out of that is that you're lying to them, right? Or you can't be trusted. Right? A defensive or a dominant posture, evasive or excessive distance, invasion of space. Right? How do you know if you stepped into somebody's bubble? They take a step backwards. All right, so what is your body language starting to say to the customer? And then listen, 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 listen. Right? Let the customer know that you're there. Right? That you're actually paying attention to them. Right? Let them know that you're listening. Okay, yeah, I got it. I see. I call them listening grunts. Right? Let them know that you're at least paying attention. And don't speed listen. Right? Don't go so fast that we're not taking in what the customer is saying. That part of the puzzle is so important that if we don't pay attention to what the customer is saying, then pretty soon what's happening is we're starting to formulate our answers before they finish their question. How many times have you answered the wrong question because we were anticipating what they're saying? And if we're already trying to think of what we're talking about, what we're saying, what we're hearing, then all of a sudden we miss a part of that puzzle. Right? And so take a look at that. What are you doing as you talk to the customer? The average person speaks at a rate of 150 words a minute. The average person listens at 350 words a minute. So if your customer is talking to you at 150 words a minute and you're listening at 350 words, what's going on in your mind the other 200 words a minute? Odds are it's can't believe what that last customer did to me or said to me or whatever, right? And man, this customer really should clean up this house. This place is a mess, right? Or you really are a frustrating customer. Or I got to remember milk and eggs. Got to get those before I go home tonight, right? And also we're tied up in stuff that has nothing to do with this customer, and our customer will see that. They'll hear that. So again, a lot of different areas. Right? A lot of different things that play into this piece of providing phenomenal customer service. What are you doing to provide that level of customer service to your customers? Right? How are they seeing what you're providing to them? So let's take a break here at this point. We're coming up at the end of our time together. Paul, do we have any questions that came up during the time frame?
We've got just 2 questions right now, Bill. First one comes from Nicole. Her question was, I use customer response cards. What questions should I be asking?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that. I use customer response cards. What questions should I be asking? There's 2 things. For many of us, we have seen, or received customer response cards that, it's the 2 pages of the, the second grade standardized test where you got to rate me on a scale of 1 to 10, and I've got 2 pages of doing that. So I will promise you, if I look at something like that, that will hit the circular file. It'll hit the garbage can before I even look at it. I'm not going to spend my time on that as a customer. I got too much other things going on. Make sure that your customer response cards are simple, that they're easy. Now, here's the thing. Customer response cards, getting feedback from our customers is so critical because, first off, think about it. How much of your business is spread by word-of-mouth advertising? One customer talking to another. All of us have that in our company. And so if that's the case, don't you really want to know what the marketing message is that's being spread about your company? Customer response cards, or getting that feedback will do that. Now, I don't care if you use a physical card or I don't care if you use some of the online versions that are available today. Use something, right? Encourage your customers to give you feedback. So what kind of questions should I be asking? I'm going to be looking at, number one, things like the courtesy of the people that I had in the customer's home, the courtesy of the staff in my office that was talking to the office personnel. What about the appearance of my guys? Right, because you'll be surprised on that one. Is sometimes we think our guys are acceptable, but the customer thinks they kind of look sloppy. Right, so I'll look at that. The timeliness of our crew, our people. So again, questions like that, but keep it simple. Quite honestly, I'd be looking for 4, maybe 5 of those items, right? Of areas, and then also again, keep it simple, right? Just let me rate it: excellent, good, fair, poor. Right? Customer needs to be able to fill this thing out very, very quickly because it's going to take them a long time. They're not going to do it. Also, you want to ask. I would always ask, are you interested in the maintenance agreement with our company? You will have some customers who will say yes, and again, they're giving you the opportunity now to go back and talk to them about another more profitable avenue of business and tying that customer back to you. I would ask the customer for their email address because, again, you'll find out typically about 30% of the customers will give you an email address. Now we can do a little bit of light marketing. I'm not saying you pummel the customer, but we can do some light marketing to the customer via email. And then last, give them an opportunity, problems or praises, because you always want to give them an opportunity to just share what they're feeling. And you'll have some customers that think, hey, great service, thank you. You'll have others that'll say, man, Ian certainly was a nice young man, right? You got a rock star there. And you'll have others that, that go, you know what, guys did a great job, but they stepped on the rose bushes on the side of the house. You got a choice, right? That's part of your brand. Are you going to do something about the rose bushes, or are you going to forever be known as the company that trampled the rose bushes that we planted in honor of my mama when she passed away? You have a choice, right? So very simple questions, and then always, always, always ask for referrals. There's no better lead source than a referral that comes from a happy customer, so ask for referrals. What else you got, Paul?
I think you covered the second one. The second question came from Jim. It was the question about maintenance agreements.
And again, always be talking to and asking your customer about, if they're interested in that piece of the puzzle. If you ever want to get out of doing this, right? And I asked, I kind of jokingly asked the question at every seminar I do: how many of you want to do this until the day we put you in the ground? And of course, we want to get out of this. And if you ever want to transition the company to somebody else, you need to have two things that needs to function without you, and you need to have some type of guaranteed monthly revenue. Waiting for things to break is not guaranteed monthly revenue. Maintenance work is as close as we come to that in the trades industry. And so we need to be able to have a maintenance agreement program in place. It's so critical. Your maintenance agreement department will drive all other areas of the company. Maintenance agreement work will help you get additional service work. Maintenance work / service work will get you additional install work. It will drive every other area of the company, so it is so critical on that part of the company. Anything else, Paul?
Nope, that's it for our questions.
All right. Hey, if as we wrap this thing up, our time together today, feel free if you have any questions. Don't hesitate to contact us direct. You can reach us at our office. Any one of our team members available at 877-202-8891, or our website, www.grandyassociates.com. Feel free to shoot us a note. Let you know what you think. Let us know what you thought about this webinar and this time together. If there's any way that we can help you, give us a call. That's what we're here for. That's our function, our goal in life. So with that, we'll wrap up our time together today. Thank you so much for being a part of this Advantage webinar. And hey, make a decision to make it a profitable day.